You are gonna record.
Hey,
Oh,
I'm recording the intro right now.
Right.
yeah. I see the little red light.
Big bottom 24.
Big bottom.
XIV.
Ah, man.
You know, because we were close to the Super Bowl with one of those things
Well,
with big
LV
weird
was
numbers.
55, right? LV 55?
Maybe. I don't know.
Google check us. Google check us. I dare you.
I think I was playing video games at the time.
I was watching it. I was cooking.
I heard some stuff happened.
I was eating decadent food, but I did watch the majority of the game.
I watched the whole thing, man. I was cooking. Had some
I actually did. Yeah, I made some pretty rockin' bacon cheeseburgers.
Nice.
I made a chili.
Oh, there you go.
I made scallops and beef.
Well, now.
Pretty good. Yeah. It was good. How are you guys
Hey
doing?
guys.
Y'all well?
I'm all right.
Yeah.
Nice.
You guys good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know, I mentioned it on the intro to the last time. I went and had that band audition.
Yes.
Did not get the gig. But I mean, it's one of those things I think important too, like we talked about before. They mentioned that, you know, playing was spot on, tone was dead it. But, you know, it came down to stronger vocals.
Yeah.
That they had somebody for. And so, you know, it comes down to always, especially when you were coming into a gigging situation like that, it's not always going to be about your playing ability.
Yeah.
It's an everything ability.
Yep.
And but John, you know, we're pretty excited to hear about the new projects coming along too. So.
Yeah, you know, took the step to bump the bass and drum solo stuff I've been doing to a quartet. I've been thinking about it actually for a long time. Actually, because one of our mutual heroes, Tony, Jonas Hellborg, from his album with Tony Williams and I think the Turtle Island String Quartet, The Word.
I think that's Word, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
From that, I always thought it'd be cool to do that. So I kind of tapped some of my friends in the musical theater things, see if they'd be interested. Everybody jumped right on board. So now it's looking into some of my stuff, starting to arrange it, I guess. So we could start doing some rehearsals and things like that.
That sounds rad. That's awesome, man. Nice. Very cool. And Tony, how about you?
I had a great conversation today with the people over at Nordstrand.
Oh,
our buddies, shout out.
I got a very nice Christmas card from them.
Did you? Nice.
I did.
Very cool.
Stu, can't forget Stu.
No, Stu, Adrian, Carrie.
We were talking about the development of the pickups. We're going to do a little spin on the pickups for my new signature bass. Actually, we're not doing something completely stock. We are doing something slightly different.
Nice.
I'm normally an open book and I say what it is, but because it's a lull-based product, I'm gonna say you know.
We'll be able to talk about it on future.
When it shows up.
Podcasts.
Yeah, the Nordstrand pickups, they are slightly different.
Nice. All right.
They're proprietary to one very particular bass, so that should be hopefully. We'll see sometime in 2021, maybe this summer. So
very cool. Very cool, man. And we had a freaking rad conversation.
It was longer than I expected. Dale is
he's legendary.
Awesome,
he's legendary.
Great.
You know, he's been involved in some of the really, really important things in bass.
In the bass community, Dale is not knee deep. He's chest deep.
Dude, he's been in it. I enjoyed like every second, man. Just a good dude, smart, intelligent, articulate, and funny as hell, and humble. So humble. So
totally humble.
Yeah,
the nicest guy. Nicest guy. You know.
And he might be my drug dealer to actually bringing me into pedal boards. So,
Hey, let's just talk about a sponsor for a second, if we
oh
can.
yeah.
I gotta get
Yeah.
you guys some maybe some more coffee soon.
Yes,
Johnny
I
Brook
need more
Coffee out of Peabody, Massachusetts.
Yes,
Boom, 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 boom.
Donnybrook. In here
Donnybrook
will
Coffee.
be the logo and the web page and all that stuff. Just
All that
imagine.
stuff.
Boom.
I love
So
the
yeah,
hands. Steve, did you suddenly get Italian?
I
Yeah.
did. I do. I've been hanging out with you too much. The gabagoo. The gabagoo ain't good right now. My son. I'm watching a lot of Sopranos too.
Oh,
Yeah. So Donnybrook,
Johnny Brook Coffee.
Donnybrook coffee. It's amazing. Yeah, I need more. I could use some more for sure.
I'll send you guys out something.
All those guys. Yeah. And for those who don't know, Dale Titus. So you guys, you had known him for a while, right, John?
Yeah, I've known him for a number of years.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Educator, marketing, sales.
I've known Dale loosely, but not like John. John worked with
Yeah.
him. You know,
Mhm.
he's a sweetheart and
And an amazing
yeah.
player. Killer player.
killer player.
You know.
Great
Yeah.
player, yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody
Educator.
best friends with Dino, you
Yeah.
know, says a lot because
Mhm.
he's a friggin' sweetheart.
That's
So
cool. Yeah. It was an amazing conversation. I really, kind of.
we're lucky that we can have our friends on
God.
here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's freaking
For sure.
cool, man.
Yeah, man.
Yes. All right. Well, that's the big bottom. Episode
So
24.
check it out.
Check
Check
it
it
out.
out, guys. All right. Enjoy it. Steve Arajo.
Oh, John Moody.
Tony Paleo. It's
All
always
right.
Steve, John, Tony. That's how it goes.
Oh, is that how it goes?
I
Yeah,
don't know.
I-
It could be somebody else.
I got the memo. Where's your memo?
Yeah. I got this memo.
Yeah, I did too. Tony, I got to get you this memo. I'll get you a memo. I'll hook you.
Remember, I can't wear camouflage. I
Because
look
no
like
one will see him.
mentally
Great.
deficient Rambo. I can't use the other language, right? So he's special Rambo.
Special
Why can't
Rambo.
you just be Rambo?
No, I
Why?
wouldn't be. No.
Why not? Why can't you be Rambo? I'm just being Sylvester Stallone.
Oh man.
Adrian!
We are
You
going to
guys know
offend
that?
somebody, and I guess I'm sorry.
That's Sylvester Stallone.
I know, but
I'm sorry. His best movie is Cliffhanger. I came back to town right now. I can't do it, but
what
Cliffhanger's
are
so good.
you doing now, Steve? What the hell is that?
It's Sly, man. It's Sly. He kind of sounds like Buffalo Bill from.
It's kind of like what Brian Bella said. Oh, is that the Dutch Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you talking about, Dutch Lord of the Rings? He kind of talks like that. That's my Sylvester Stallone
I
impersonation.
thought that was like a Sean Connery thing, that you were just doing.
No, it's not Sean Connery. That's more like Sean Connery. All right, so
All right, we gotta end this and on to Dale, okay?
Yeah.
we are ending episode 24, Big Bottom, with Dale Titus. All right, guys, everybody enjoyed it. We'll see you. Big Bottom 24.
Big body.
Bye.
Out.
3, 2, 1.
Boom.
All right.
Action.
We are on.
Contact.
Action. Slate. Marker. All that crap. Dale
John.
Titus. Go ahead.
Hey.
Introduce.
I was gonna say,
Tony.
John, introduce it. We're very
Great.
professional on this. We
Yeah,
always
exactly. So yeah, coming here, many people know him as one of the key voices over at Aguilar Amplification, or also an incredible bass educator from MI onwards. I know him as a dear friend, Mr. Dale Titus.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Audience, and loud cheering.
I don't get it at my shows, so don't break the.
No,
Right.
we
don't
get.
start it.
No. We're spoiling you on this one.
We'll add in some of the MST3K like commentary stuff.
Exactly. So, Dale, are you in New York? Or are you West Coast, East Coast? Where are you at? Where do you live?
I'm West Coast, man. I'm north of you.
Okay.
And I work up in Folsom, California.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I started repping in '98 for Dana B. Goods. I was repping Warwick, USA.
Yeah.
they let us work from our homes. And when that kind of, after 14 years, they downsized, didn't want remote employees. Within 48 hours, Aguilar hired me, and they were like, "No, stay right there." And so honestly, it's been great because in the pandemic, I haven't changed my workflow at all.
Nice.
So,
That's good to hear. And you've been working, which is great.
yeah. Thank God. I mean, it's
Yes.
been really wonderful. Yeah, it's a great team to work with, and like I said, I've actually worked from home since '95. Because I worked from home. I helped Jeff Berlin set up the Players School of Music.
That's awesome.
And I worked from Arizona to help him get accreditation and things like that.
Okay.
And then I became the editor of Bass Frontiers, which we all work from home. So that was, so it's been, I lived in Hollywood for like 5 years.
Sure.
And the commute, I worked at MI in Hollywood, and I lived in Burbank, which should have been like a 15-minute drive, was like an hour.
Oh,
and
wow.
that just broke me from ever wanting to commute again.
Yeah.
That's where I think New York wins, or Boston, anyone has mass transit. Man, I would have used that in a heartbeat. But at the time, they didn't have it for us.
Well,
So
especially LA. LA traffic is the most horrendous. Like literally, if you're in Santa Monica wanting to go to Hollywood, it's an hour and a half. No matter what, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know that commute. Even though I'm from Boston, I know that Burbank to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Be a little commute, and that's
I mean, that's within
ugly.
That's within LA, Los Angeles. It's a nightmare. And then coming from Orange County, when I used to gig a lot up in LA downtown, I mean, it was hour and a half. I'd give myself 2 hours, and I'd barely make it.
See, that's that changed me, Steve, because when you gig down there, because again, I was there for 5 years, and I gigged really regularly.
Yeah.
You had a Thomas guide, and you remember?
Of course. Of course,
you had to have the Thomas guide, but you had to give yourself hours, because you never knew. A SIG alert on the freeway could mean you missed a gig. Auditions, I would go so early for an audition and find a cafe that was within walking distance and just sit. You had to.
Well, you're a responsible musician, because a lot of guys don't do that shit. A lot of guys either run late. I mean, I've been on casuals where guys show up literally right before down. And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, what are you doing? So anyways, that's good. So nice. You're West Coast. You're a West Coaster. Nice.
Yeah, you're down in Orange, right?
I'm in Rancho Santa Margarita. So that's basically kind of Mission Viejo-esque, like right where the 5 and the 405 meet ish.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And then work in Fullerton. So everything's, I mean, Orange County traffic isn't that bad. Sometimes it can be bad, but it's a piece of cake compared to LA.
Yeah, my daughter is in her first year at Chapman University.
Oh,
so,
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a dance major there, and I love the community. Of course, we've all been going to Anaheim. My first NAMM show was 1985.
Oh my
God. And everyone knows Anaheim Orange. I mean, you can get around, instinctually. So.
Yes. Yeah, and man, this year bummer, but hopefully next year. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And I have a question. I don't mean to be hogging, but I loved Bass Frontiers magazine.
Oh, thank you.
I have all my back issues of Bass Player, but I think I have a lot of original issues of Bass Frontiers.
Yeah.
And were you editing it from the beginning, or because it went like 5 years or so, right? Like how it went?
It went on beyond that as online only, but so it started as Jim Hyatt started it as a newsletter called the Bass Instructor's Newsletter.
Oh wow!
And I was actually on the cover of I want to say issue 3 or issue 4, talking about my approach to teaching, creativity and stuff. What I wrote about in Bass Player magazine.
Yeah.
And when I left LA and moved to Arizona for a couple of years, Jim started asking me to do more interviews. So I started doing interviews. I started writing columns.
Nice.
And then he was really not into actually being the editor. He was really wanting to be the publisher and do big, think more on the bigger scope.
Okay.
And grow, I got to give him credit. At that time, he was looking at growing the brand. Mm-hmm. So I moved to Sacramento and actually started as the editor. I was the editor, I want to say, for 6 issues.
Nice.
But I'll tell you what, I'm gonna publicly say something I've never said breaking news here with Big Bottom. We couldn't pay anybody.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people would write for us, for free, or we would run ads for their magazine or for albums, whatever.
Sure.
But there was one issue I could just see on the for Horizon that we had nobody. So I actually wrote every article in the magazine, but I didn't want it to seem like we were small time. So I made up names for every single person in the magazine.
I love, what is that called? A nom de plume, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I went nom de plume. And I was so embarrassed, man.
Your middle name and the street you grew up on. There you go.
Man.
Yeah, Dale was looking at all of those, like, what's your name type things. Like, all right, this person's writing this article.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible! Wow. Well, if anybody, I'll have to look for that magazine. I have them stored away somewhere, but
if you have it, you should have him sign it.
yes. Oh, absolutely
Awesome.
Right.
With
Oh,
all
I
the
want to
names.
know, Dale, what did you use for names? Because I had to do something with nothing that intense, but I wrote local reviews on bands, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, geez, I know everybody in Boston. I can't
Yeah.
put my name on this stuff. What do I do? Like, why am I said yes prematurely. And then, so I used the porno name, like I was just talking about, middle name, street you grew up on, right?
Yeah.
And then,
I didn't want to use like any, bass players are the smartest audience. And I'm not saying that to pander. It's like, I went through a lot of marketing with Musicians Institute, and the profiles for the different departments, how you spoke to a guitar player to try to get them to come to school is way different than a bass player.
Okay.
So I knew if I was to use like, Bootsy Entwistle, that would not fly. And so I actually I'd look at my high school yearbook and take the first name of one of my friends that's male and the last name of one of my friends who was female. And that way I figured it was Da Vinci Code. No one would ever be able to figure it out. So.
Until now.
I love how it comes out
There's
now. 20
somebody
years later.
watching this that's just throwing his hands up, going like, I knew it.
What is it? They have a little triptych thing, little like, that's how he figured it out. The little dial thing.
They've got a wall of like all
man.
these things, and like all these different names. And there's a yearbook thing. It's like first name here, last name here.
I'm gonna put this on Talk Base, and I bet you anything somebody's gonna say something.
Oh hell yeah!
Well, and I have to tell you, I got so paranoid about it that like one writer would only use contractions. So everything was can't, wouldn't, won't. One writer spoke like Data from Star Trek The Next Generation. Everything was, I cannot see that as being, I tried to change my writing style.
Well, okay. If any English teachers, masters or somewhere, you should look it up and give an honorary degree to you, because that's a study in literature. Like really,
this is something like AP classes in high school should be looking at. And like, look, this is how you ghostwrite an entire magazine
as a persona.
As personas. Yeah.
I owned an Elric fretless that was given away through Frontiers magazine for a while.
Oh, no way.
Yes, it was beautiful, and I'm speaking in past because I was an asshole and I sold it somewhere, but it was beautiful. It was a fretless, but it was one of those giveaways. Spalted, it was gorgeous, and I'm just stupid for getting rid of it. But yeah, that was one of the giveaway bases from there.
Well, the bass community, I'll make no qualms about it. I love the bass community, and I started playing relatively late. I started playing bass when I was 18.
Okay.
But the family I developed at Musicians Institute with the teachers there became more and more. And as I became the editor of Bass Frontiers, what just blew me away was how many manufacturers like Elric would step up and say, hey, you know what? I want to help out. How about I have this? And you'll do a giveaway. I have this. Wow. I cannot remember, unless Jim didn't tell me, I can't remember a time we actually solicited for it. People would just literally contact us. Awesome. Mike Tobias, such a sweet guy. Yeah. I mean, he would call up and give us hints and like, hey, you might want to try to do this. I mean, it was so cool because Jim and I both, neither of us, at least I don't think Jim has, but we didn't have a journalism degree.
Sure.
So we were just doing our best, and it was, and it was amazing the support to get from the manufacturers, from subscribers were amazing, so anyway, I really have a large part of my heart goes to the bass community because they've just always been there for me. They've been so cool. Anytime I start a new project, automatically people jump on. It's supportive. It's really great.
That's awesome. I love that. And you guys, I mean, Bass Frontiers was obviously directly, you know, Bass Player Magazine, but Bass Frontiers kind of had, it was almost in that day where the boutique stuff, like it was still like I had to go up and pilgrimage to Bass Center to play like these exotic instruments and stuff. And Bass Frontiers almost catered to that niche, that left of center, you know, not just Fender, not just Guild, but the Ken Smith, the Foderas, the Elrics, the, you know, those guys. And it was at Tobias, you know, and I always loved that, you know, that was a really cool side of it, you know.
You know,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, go on.
I said we had two unique identity. What we want to do is, and I learned this when I was helping with recruitment at Musicians Institute. They would send us to like seminars on marketing.
Okay.
And the whole thing was about a unique identity. We knew we couldn't out bass player. And Jim really loved the boutique luthiers and was really like wanting to help those people, that particular population of builders. He really wanted help because at the time, internet was just happening. And, you know, a lot of them weren't really on it at all. So he wanted to really elevate and do more reviews like that. My part was I wanted to put on the cover the founding fathers and mothers. I wanted to be historically, I didn't want, because at the time, if you went to the newsstand, there were a lot of whoever was the hottest on the charts. Yeah. And I respect that. And I understand that also was really great for your circulation. You put a young player who happens to have number one hit on, people that weren't bass players might buy the magazine. So it looked good on your sell through. Sure. But I just felt like putting Lee Sklar on the cover was like so important. You know, doing things like that to remind, like we even did a series called Gone But Not Forgotten, where we would take bass players who had passed and try to do a quick, before Wikipedia, Wikipedia, this is why they're important. And it was on the back page of several of the issues. Yeah. Because I thought that was our unique spot. Now, Jim Roberts actually gave me my start in writing because he asked me I had written a book called Creative Explorations that I self-published. And all my relatives loved getting it for Christmas. But Jim Roberts somehow heard about it and asked me to do that back column. For 1 year, I did a back column, Creative Explorations. Yeah, okay. And then he asked me to do, like, my very first interview with an artist was Tim Bogert, who was a good friend of mine. Wow. And we recently lost. But he actually was my first interview. So Jim really got me going. And honestly, when I started working for Bass Frontiers, I felt a loyalty. I felt like bummed about it. I didn't want any negative bad blood. I never want to look over my shoulder. This industry's, we are a community that can support each other. Yeah. We don't have to be competitive. But I didn't know if it was going to create any issues. So I remember when the Lee Sklar issue, we put on the cover Father Time with a big, great picture. The interview was by Alexa Koloretsky. And it was an amazing interview. And I got a call from Jim Roberts, who I hadn't talked to in years. And he calls me and he just says, "Hey man, I'm holding you a new issue." And I'm like, "Oh, great." And he goes, "This is a real magazine." Man. And I just thought, wow, you know, I'd like to thank the Academy for this award.
You like me. Awesome. You really like me.
Wow. That's cool. That's good kudos right there. That's cool. Wow.
I love Jim. Jim was a genius. The first guy, we know this, the first guy or woman who ever does something, the groundbreaker, the path maker, takes all the risk without any of the confidence that can be done other than the confidence they have in themselves. And Jim Roberts, because prior to that, I don't know if you guys remember, there had been attempts at like special issues of bass magazines and things like that. And they hadn't done well. They didn't get, people just didn't buy in. Jim took the ball and scored a touchdown after touchdown after touchdown.
Yeah. So, those early issues were fantastic. Of both a bass player, the early ones were great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dale, I was going to ask you, since you're like an early NAMM guy, do you remember some of those bass shows before the Bass Bash existed? Were you guys responsible putting that on Bass Frontiers? It used to be at that old hotel.
Right. You know what? We might have.
That was like when it was not in Anaheim, it was in LA for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, once or twice it was in LA at the Forum.
Right.
I remember that. Or
it was Staples.
Staples.
Or Nick,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, right next to Staples, the convention center.
Yeah, yeah. That was a
And
weird.
it was horrible, guys.
That was weird.
I was working at Warwick that time. It's funny, you can get dealers to come from the Midwest or from when it's snow to come to Anaheim. The family goes to Disneyland. They do business. It was great. Yeah. At the time, LA was having some social issues, and there was, a lot of problems going on. So I remember the first day of the first NAMM show at the convention center, LA Convention Center. We were lucky enough, Warwick was on the aisle, and the big doors would open, and the tradition was Doc Severinsen and a high school band, I think the Hollywood High Band, would come a march down the aisle, right. And fanfare. Right behind them would be the audience, the crowd. And I remember the doors fly open, you hear, the classic trumpet of Doc Severinsen. Everyone comes through, no one was behind them. So they walk by, and I remember looking at like Dave Vincent from Dean Guitars. I look at him, my eyes really big, and then one guy came in, and I remember him just walking with the little guide that you were given, looking down, looking up. And I'm thinking, that poor guy is going to get hit so hard, So we got out basses and we started jamming, man. We just decided to have fun. So,
wow, yeah. That's great. Did John and Tony, did you guys come out to that LA when they had it in LA?
It was my first one.
That was well past me before any of this stuff. I think I was probably
LA was my first one.
College?
I wasn't I wasn't interested, or I was kind of set with what I was doing. I didn't have to go. I already had some deals in the works and so forth like that. But I was asked to go by Zahn.
Excellent.
Modulus, Joe Zahn asked me to come, so I did, and I'm like, this is all right. And then Anaheim was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it was freaking horrible in LA. That was a terrible.
And I remember going to like one of the bass events out there, and I thought you guys helped put it on or something.
We probably helped advertise it. I know we didn't have any funds to be able to like buy in and sponsor, but I believe so. Now it's funny, of all the years I've gone to NAMM and Summer NAMM, I'm in my high 30s. I've gone as I worked for a music store, so I went in 1985 as an employee. That was a pretty decent thing, except everyone really was staring at your badge first. I try to make an attempt not to look at badges when people come in, just to treat them as an individual, welcome into your home.
Instead of qualifying, let me qualify you to see if,
I went as a demonstrator, which was interesting. It was kind of fun. I did that a couple of years. When I was a teacher at MI, a lot of companies would say, hey, we're coming out. Is there anyone who could come, demonstrate? And it was great. You got a pass, you went in. And of course, I've been a rep for many years, but I have to tell you, going as the editor of a bass magazine, you are the prettiest girl at the bar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everyone wants to talk to you. Everyone wants to schmooze.
I had an overly inflated sense of self after that show.
Wow. That's funny. What music store were you working in LA? Like Navy?
No.
Or
I was born up in Chico, California.
Okay.
When I graduated from high school, I worked at Music Pro, and it was a great store.
Yeah.
And it was great to grow up in Chico, because that time Chico was kind of known as the party capital of the world. I mean, Playboy magazine did calendars and stuff there. MTV actually rated Chico, I think twice. I mean, people can fact check me in the comments, but I think twice they rated it as the party capital of the world. So you imagine, as a gigging musician, whenever there was any big college event, I usually could play 2, sometimes 3 shows in one day. Jeez. Because you could play like an afternoon backyard party. By the way, that's where I actually met, I think possibly the greatest bass tech I ever met was a guy from Chico who later became, I believe, an MMA fighter, but a guy named Mike Rose.
Oh my God.
And Mike is a bass player. Okay. And I had 2 identical rigs, and I had, he would set me up at the first gig. Mm-hmm. I would go play that gig. He would drive to my next gig, set that up. We would pass on the road. He would grab the first gig, go to the last gig, and back then you could play till 2 or 3 in the morning, so it was a cash cow. So I loved growing up in Chico.
That's awesome. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
You're like Will Lee. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Dude.
he's
Willie
my
had
hero.
had a tech that would go around
Yeah.
New York and set his gear up. You know.
The year before I went to MI, I had, because we all back then, I don't know if it's still done with the young guys today, but we had a book, and you would always put the date of the gig, and you put your receipts that you had to expenses. So you had like a catalog. So I had over 300 gigs in 1 year. So it was, and that's where I cut my teeth and gave me the confidence to go to MI to be a student. I felt like, okay, I think I've got a lot of my foundation now, but I'm missing key elements. I need to learn theory. I need to be formally trained. And that's what prompted me to move down to Hollywood.
That's amazing. Who were was like Gary Willis, Scott, like who, Berlin, that was the
Dude.
heyday, right?
Yeah. I went in 89.
Nice.
And it's never, I can't imagine ever being like this. So yeah, I had on staff, Tim Bogert, Jeff Berlin, Gary Willis, Steve Bailey, Alexis Sklarevsky, who's unbelievable player.
Monster.
Putter Smith. Now we're going to the upright guy.
Yeah, no.
Putter Smith, genius. Bob Magnuson, one of the few guys I've ever become friends with who's in the real book. You actually can see tunes by him.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it was, and you could literally just sit in a room, just like the four of us. We could sit and just chat with these guys. Juan Eldreddy was on staff at that. So, yeah.
And guitar, I think like Joe DiOrio was there. I think that was during that time too. So
Paul Gilbert would come in whenever Mr. Big wasn't, doing stuff. We had a lot of. I mean, I'm going to embarrass myself by not mentioning some of the great players. But it was a different vibe because at that time they didn't offer degrees, so you were basically going to a technical school.
Sure.
And the program was a 1-year technical school. Later on, you could stay on and do a extended study. But when I went, it was 1 year, and it was such a commune. I mean, there was 100 bass players in my class. There was 1,000 guitar players, I want to say. So we always got gigs. I mean, bass players were big and crazy. But like the lunch hall was connected to a big performance hall called P100, and it was very common. One thing that's jumping to mind because you mentioned Joe DiOrio.
Yeah,
I was a teacher at this point, so I would go down a lot of times and sit with the bass students and just make sure I could. I was also the counselor, so if someone was having trouble, I wanted to be aware of it. So I would try to go down and have lunch with them. As we're having lunch, you see the door open, and because we're inside a pretty dark event space, the door open, a shaft of light comes through, and you look and you see two silhouettes coming in. One turned out to be Joe DiOrio with Pat Metheny.
Oh my God.
And they walk up on stage, and they literally, Joe goes, "Hey guys, I know it's lunch, but would you mind if I haven't seen Pat for a long time. We just want to jam." It was like, "No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, go ahead."
Oh.
Yeah. And they played for like 2 hours just to an audience of about 100, because as people heard it, people started coming down. That happened all the time.
Wow. Wow. That was the heyday for sure back then.
I think so. I think so. I don't want to play what they're doing now, because they switched to a degree program.
Yeah. And
which is great, because a lot of parents wouldn't let kids come to us because they weren't getting a BA or an AA. So now that's open. But because of that, you couldn't have people teach certain classes unless they had a degree. Yeah. So automatically, some teachers that had like 40 hours a week were down to like 8 hours of counseling time, and they had to move on. So yeah, that was my favorite time. I'm so honored to have been part of that.
Yeah, not to discredit now, just these legends were.
Yeah, it was different. It was a different time.
It was a different. Yeah, man, that's amazing.
Yeah,
so cool. So then from school, from doing all that, you started working, you did some marketing stuff. And so how did that go into kind of a music, in the musical realm, I guess, in the musical manufacturer, but getting to, work with these different companies and stuff? How did that, was that just kind of a natural progression, or how did you get into that?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of. And the reason I'm being iffy is a weird thing happened. So things were going great. I mean, I was working 40 to 50 hours at school. I had a couple bands going that we were doing like record showcases. I had a band named Ashen, which is Ashen. Roy Ashen was the guitar player. We had some success in Europe with an album we put out. Things were going well. I was writing for Bass Player Magazine. That same year that I'm thinking about, I was asked to be the music director for the Bass Player 5th anniversary concert at NAMM. So, I mean, I got to get on stage and do the final jam. I mean, it's so amazing. So unfortunately, during a rehearsal for for Ashen, I had a grand mal seizure. And so, in fact, based on the time they made the 911 call to the time that the paramedics got me, I had been seizing for 15 minutes, which usually at that point your heart fails, because it was, when they mean grand mal, it's highly demonstrative. You're locked up and your heart is going like a trip hammer. So I had to, we tried, and by the way, at this time, I watched your guys' podcast with Dino Monoxlis. Dino is my closest non-blood brother. My mom calls herself Dino's West Coast mom. Nice. He was the best man at my first wedding. I don't blame him that it didn't work out. I don't think he had anything to do with it. At least that's what all the investigation proved.
All right, okay.
We love Dino,
right?
you know?
Sure.
Yeah. Dino's the best of us. And so during this time, he was a student, and he was helping me at gigs. And so I was on some medication, some pretty heavy anti-seizure medications, but I just got back on the horse.
Okay.
And we were doing a showcase at Madame Wong's.
I remember.
Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I know Madame Wong's. Yeah.
So I was doing a showcase there, got through the entire, we were the headliner, packed house, really great. Tons of labels, representatives were there. And during the encore, I had my second seizure. And as soon as that happened, they scratched our names off the list. Even though I said, listen, I'm out of the band, get a new bass player. For some reason, that was just enough for them to say, nah, we're going to take a pass. So I felt bad about that. But I realized I couldn't endanger the income of people. Like, I couldn't go on a tour, have a seizure, and now the sound and lighting guys don't get paid. And so I decided I would shift more to education. MI was amazing. MI had the best health insurance. I had the best. They never found the cause of my seizures, but they found my triggers, which was just, all right, check this out, guys. When the guy tells you your seizures are caused because of malnourishment, sleep deprivation, and high levels of stress, that's a touring musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
Yep.
Wow.
So I said, okay, I'm gonna lean into education. Once again, my bass brothers and sisters, Steve Bailey and Alexis Skrolewski, both referred me to Warner Brothers to do instructional videos. So I did the Ultimate Beginner Series for bass, 2 videos. And that, along with my transition from bass player to bass frontiers and self-publishing a book, I started working as a clinician for a lot of companies. So for Warwick mainly, I would go to stores, and what they like, the way I tried to uniquely market myself was, it wouldn't just be a plain thing. I would do just like a class at MI. I'd have curriculum packet. It'd be one topic. We would dive deep, and at the end, everyone had homework that they could go home with. And that was really successful too. Yeah. But it was by necessity. I had to figure out, how's this going to work, because I couldn't tour anymore. It was kind of, torn away from me. And that honestly, check it out. So then when the Northridge quake destroyed the house I was renting, I decided I can't live here. So my wife at the time, we moved to Arizona, and that's when I started getting more into publishing. Moved back to Sacramento to be the editor of Bass Frontiers. And when I left that post, I became a security guard. I used to do bodyguard work. My family's military and police. So I was a training assistant for the Colusa County SWAT team. So I decided, okay, God gave me 2 talents. I'm going to go with the other one for now. So I started security. And I remember getting a call from Dana B. Goods, because I was a Warwick and Dorsey.
Sure.
And Dana B. Goods called me and said, listen, we need a sales rep. Would you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, I want to get back in the industry somehow. And that's how that was the catalyst that got me into repping and all this.
That's amazing. I mean,
the good people over there, Dana B. Goods, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Dane and Katie are the best. And they treated me, when he called me and said they had to lay me off, but really they were eliminating the position. I felt like I was being dumped, but I had to console. I mean, the dumper was actually crying, I won't say he was crying. He was so upset. And I'm like, Dane, it's going to be cool. I understand. Because this is when the bubble burst.
Sure.
And, the stock market crash, and distributors are having a harder time, or at that time.
What year was this, Dale?
Let's see, that would have been 2000. And let's see, I've been with Aguilar for 11 years. So 2001.
Yeah, yeah.
2000, 2001. Yeah.
Wow.
Or no, sorry, 2011.
Eight.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the housing market was like '09. That's when
Yeah, that's exactly right.
all that stuff.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
man, wow, what a story. Well, we did a podcast with Joe Hubbard,
Yeah.
and it kind of reminds me of that, where Joe kind of quit and went into the same thing, kind of the security, doing all that.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's yeah.
That guy's amazing, man.
Yeah.
He blew us away. We call him the dad on here. Like everything he knows and everybody he knows and everything he knows. Joe's, yeah.
Joe Hubbard, yeah, is he's one that more people need to know about, and his contribution to our family has to be highlighted. So I by the way, thank you guys for doing that.
Oh man, of course.
To in addition, I want to tell you, man. So in Northern California, much like Southern California, we're still pretty locked down, and gigging isn't going to come back for a while. And I've had good days and bad days, like you guys. What I missed most, of course, performing, but it's the in-between times, the joking with guys during rehearsal, all that stuff. You guys doing Big Bottom podcast gave me a facsimile of that. And so you guys pulled me out of some I was heading down. I'd be depressed because I'm also really good friends with Rodney McGee. And he is the funniest guy on the planet.
He's basically a neighbor of mine.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
He helped me with my YouTube channel, giving me like stuff you can't find online. He would give me little tricks and things. But so yeah, I want to thank you guys, because I know it was difficult for you guys to keep this going at times with all the things going on in your lives. But this podcast is amazing because it's filling a void, because we are social beasts, not just bass players, musicians. Bass players by large, like I think you guys will all agree, we all get referred gigs more from bass players than anyone else. We want everyone else to do well. If I can't do a gig, I really want to give it to Dino. And so being kind of robbed of that opportunity to regularly hang with each other, to go to a bar and see one of your friends play, it's tough. And so I really appreciate you guys doing this.
Dale, I don't know if you know how this started. Before lockdown, the three of us had like a running message going on, text message that we had for like probably a year and a half, 2 years before lockdown. Like just
think of it like the Dale Titus Pete Hilton one that we used to have, but just a little more PC.
Oh, I hope so.
I don't know how bad that is, because I'm not the most PC person on the planet.
That one was rough.
And we used to say, like, everything we're writing to each other, like, other people would want to hear and know this. It was like Bass Player Magazine in a small subsection. I'm like, we would talk industry stuff all the time. Sorry, industry stuff. I'm out of them, Ty. Excuse me. So, and we would just chat all the time. I'm like, and then when this all happened, we're like, let's bring this in. Let's invite our friends. Let's do this. And
it's key. It's key. I'm going to do more to promote it, because I think.
Thanks, man.
I talked to you, Tony, at the NAMM show, the last NAMM show, that I was really concerned about some of the young bass players. This is pre-COVID, obviously, because we are at a NAMM show, but my daughter had danced in a show that was highlighting the high suicide rate of LGBT teenagers that were going through high school or even middle school, not feeling part of a community, feeling that they were alone, and ultimately taking their lives. So it was a fundraiser and it was great, but I watched it and I kept thinking, man, more and more high school administrations are taking out music programs. And if they leave them in, a lot of times the best you can hope for is to play upright bass and just sight reading charts, or sight reading, not even charts. And I started kind of doing a little research, and sure enough, there's a significant number of musicians, because maybe they have long hair and maybe they like the Dead, or they get teased because they don't like the current thing. And, so looking into it, I found one of the most common comments from suicide survivors is that they felt alone. So I talked to Tony, I talked to everybody that I was going to put together this bass channel, Everything Bass. I was going to go with what I know, which is teaching and journalism.
Sure.
But ultimately, I wanted to create an environment, which you guys have done, so thank you,
Um,
where someone who might feel alone, who got teased, who doesn't feel they have an outlet for their expression, sometimes they don't even feel supported by their parents because the parents don't think it's a reliable thing to do.
Mhm.
But they can get on and laugh with you guys. They can come on and post on any of my outlets or comment on a YouTube video. And we, not even about what they're going through, but just saying, hey, I kind of like this band. I try to comment on everyone because if we can make people feel part of a community, especially during this time when no one can really get out and exercise their art, then I think we're doing a really good service.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very much so. I think that's something, and I think I know it'll go on past the pandemic, because you guys, I think you should never stop. I think this is great. I will.
You heard it here, folks. Dale Titus approved.
No,
Never
that
stop.
that means a lot, man. And we're all pretty transparent. And I mean, when this thing started, I mean, nobody knew.
Transparent.
Like,
I'm camouflage right now. Look.
I am too. And hey, by the way, John, look.
I know. I'm
Look.
glad you got the memo.
Look at all that pimping. Jeez.
I know, we'll have to get them. But yeah, at the beginning, it's like, none of us really knew. Like, okay, you walk outside, you come back in, you're going to die the next day. Like severity was really, and it created a lot of fucking mental anguish and just, and not being able to talk to people, be with your friends. I mean, I know I definitely turtled a bit, everybody did. And it was just fucking gnarly, man. It was a weird, bizarre, just such a weird thing. And this definitely kept me going.
Yeah.
And sometimes even, Tony and John would definitely attest to this, that sometimes I definitely tend to kind of go within and I'm like, okay, I need to just pull myself out and this helps. So
all three of us, maybe not John so much, but definitely Steve and I had like times where like, oh God,
rough mental, just
I think the funniest thing, because Dale will know this, because when Dale and I really got to know each other was in 2016, when not a lot of people know that I did get the honor of working with Dale as a coworker at Aguilar for a couple of months. Nice. But that was also right through my divorce. Wow. So Dale was like the big brother, just every time calling me in the morning, and we would talk probably for hours on stuff just to get stuff through, and then helping me through with all the growing pains and things like that and stuff. And so I joke with the fact that I got through all of that so gracefully that going through COVID was just like,
yeah.
Hey, I have to tell you, let's make things a little lighthearted for a moment.
Here we go.
Have you guys ever shared in a hotel room with John Moody?
I know where this is going.
When John Moody,
I would like to.
Once I've crashed at John's room, I think once or twice.
When John gets up in the morning, his body pops like a Neil Peart drum solo. It is not one pop. He literally walks across, and I thought he had bubble wrap taped to his shoes. It's his body putting itself back together. It is the craziest thing, man.
Oh my God, I love it.
He might be an alien.
Wow.
He's reptilian. I think I crashed on a couple of Tuesdays at John's place.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
We have a little routine, Dale. We have a very strict routine.
Very strict routine.
You know what? I come in on Tuesday. We line our flights. I pick up John at the airport. He either comes with me to get the rental, or I go back to the airport. I get John. We go down south. We get burritos. I go meet Steve. We go. We have it.
Nice.
The next Wednesday, we go to the gym. We get cheap burritos at Alberto's. We have it. It's and I wouldn't change it for nothing.
Fuck no.
In the world, I wouldn't change it.
We had some of the best times, man. That was really fun, John. Really fun.
So, John, is the coffee like oil lubricant? So the more you have, like, and then that just kind of helps lubricate.
It certainly helps. That is for sure. Yeah, I don't know, and it's funny because it is one of those things that as you get older and you crack your knuckles more, it gets easier to do it. Wow. So, but I do remember, I think it was one of the times it was when we were in New York for the holiday meetings
Yeah.
and stuff that you're like, yeah, it's time to get up. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I like sit up, and it was almost like an accordion, just and Dale just stopped, was like, what was that?
Like, do we need to call an ambulance? Because you just sound like you broke. But
And then I think I looked at him, turned to my neck, and it was like one more.
Yeah, and it's funny because so after he went left Aguilar, went back to JHS, we stayed in touch, still do. But I remember one morning I sent you a Facebook message that said, "I had some Rice Krispies this morning. Thought of you, missed you."
that's awesome. Oh my! I did not know this about John Moody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to hear.
I didn't hear it when I stayed
Actually,
with him,
man,
but then again,
the big ones right now are the ankles. Like I'll get up, walk around a little
Really?
bit, you stop, and then you just kind of bend your ankles. You just hear,
Oh,
I'm like, that's it. And then you just keep
Listen,
walking.
he's rhythmic in every aspect of his being. Rhythmic.
Mhm.
your body just still grooves. The crack, the snap crackle has a
Right.
groove.
Yeah.
That's
okay,
awesome.
we like you, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
Well-
keep John around for a while.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you know, that's how I found the right girl this time, is that Jen cracks her knuckles and body probably about as much as I do. Like she'll
That's
look
right.
over, she'll just take her arms and just go,
Oh,
and you're like, I'm like, nice.
Dude, I should have prepared it. You guys might not know this, but I don't have any tattoos. But if I was to ever get a tattoo, I told John it was going to be a tramp stamp, and he'd have to design it because I love his art. His art's phenomenal.
oh, it's ridiculous. It's amazing.
So he asked me what I wanted, and do you remember what I asked you for?
Was it the pickle riding the unicorn?
Yes.
Oh.
A
Oh,
pickle
man,
riding a unicorn.
As a
I wish-
tramp stamp.
Yeah, I wanted. Yeah, I figured why not get
Yeah.
the Ted Mosby tramp stamp?
Dude,
But
oh my God.
I like how this show is going like this.
Wasn't his a butterfly? His was a butterfly. I think Mosby got
This
a
was
butterfly. But I like
love that series. All right, let's get back on track. So
No, that we're on. No, it's
No, that's okay. More tattoos. I mean, I only have one and it's hidden.
No.
Mm.
Well, I will never get a tattoo because I don't even like to wear the same shirt twice in a row. But just to have John design me some art was, and I gotta tell you, I will find it and at least text it to you guys because you have to see it.
Please.
It's absolutely
Just do what
gorgeous.
I do. Don't do the stamp. Do it on your butt like I did, like the left butt.
Okay.
You have a tattoo on your ass?
XXX.
3 X's on your ass.
3 X's.
Kiss, kiss, kiss.
So,
Is that
so
what that is?
depending when he spreads his cheeks, it's XXXO.
Oh.
It's
Or
open
it's
to-
OXXX.
It's open to interpretation. You take it as you see fit.
Speaking of
Oh.
tattoos, if I ever got one, I would get one of this. I'm pointing at it. That clown.
Oh yeah. So
Oh,
what
the
is
clown. Your dad's clown.
So my dad drew that like when he was in college, when he was super young. And it's a
Oh.
pencil drawing of a clown. I would get it if I had one, but I don't. I'd get it right there. Anyways,
Oh, yeah.
talk. That's what I would
Cool.
get. And then something on my, and then I'd have,
And
then
then
I'd have
something on the
Tony. No. I would have Tony do a line drawing, a stick figure, and then I'd get that as a tramp stamp. There you go. From like super highbrow, like drawing Picasso-esque, whatever fucking art.
What you
to-
need
I'm
is
really
take a
good
little
at stick
stick
figures.
figure
I am
right
super
at the
good at it.
spot where, you know, the cheeks start to form. This little
Oh.
stick figure going like this.
Going, woo! Goal or something. All right.
Yeah.
Some 15-year-old is gonna watch this and be like, "These guys are awesome," or "These guys are freaking smoking crack."
I'll take either one. Either one is good. Don't
You know
care.
what you could do, Steve?
What?
Totally serious.
Leo Fender. Nah.
The Leo Fender one. That actually would be a pretty cool tattoo.
Yeah, all
No?
right.
You're like, I work with it every day. I don't need to take it home.
I don't need to take it home. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm only kidding. I have nothing. It's just because I don't like permanency on almost anything. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're cool. John's are cool.
Yeah,
Badass tattoos, John.
Yeah, John's got the
Yeah.
nice thing actually.
Fuck yeah.
I'm fascinated by tattoos.
Me
We were
too.
at a restaurant in Roseville, California. My wife and I were with some friends, and a lady came up, and her whole sleeve was Nightmare Before Christmas.
Whoa.
And I'd never seen it was actually 3D,
Wow.
where you look like if you saw it at the right angle,
Mhm.
Jack's head actually would look like it came off of her skin.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah, so when I asked her about it, she says it was a LA artist who had been on some of the shows, I guess the ink shows,
Sure.
but got tired of living down there and moved to Roseville. And so, you know, she got the whole sleeve done. It was insane. I admire the artwork, man.
Oh, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
it's high art. I mean, these guys,
Yes.
it's ridiculous how good. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
think back in the day, if like Zappa called one of us to come in to do a session, the nerves we'd have that what we would play was going to be on a Zappa recording. I think every, you know, tattoo artist, that pressure's there. I'm committing art,
Yeah.
you know, onto skin forever.
Forever.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know, man. I don't think there's enough Maylocks in the world for me to do that job.
Tums, Maylocks, Imodium, all that. Oh my god.
I have to say something. I keep on looking at that dolphin in the background.
Oh yeah.
Woo!
When I was younger,
Man.
I always was like fascinated by those bases. They always seem like mystically, you know.
What year is that one?
That's a ninth. Oh, I'm sorry, no, it's a 2000.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, it can't be. Let me backtrack.
Mhm.
Because it was the first bass I ever got from Warwick. So that has to be a 90. That was a 93, I believe. A
Ooh.
93.
Man.
Does it have the
Yeah.
Augusta nut?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
fuck yes. That's
The
the
original-
original. Dude. Yes.
The
Yeah.
original one was the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, maybe I talked to you, Dale,
Yeah.
but when I had my when I got my Warwick streamer from
Mm.
Warwick, when I was an
Oh.
artist too, and it came with the third version,
Yeah,
which
the-
was way better than the second because the second was crap.
Yeah.
But I think I called you guys and asked if you had any new old stock of the original ones
Yeah.
Right.
or a 6-string broadneck. And I
Oh.
think it was one of those, you were like, in fact, we're blowing them out right now because, you know. So yeah, I got that. And so that was the first like mod I put on this instrument that, you know, I had just spent a ton of money on,
Oh.
brand new endorsement instrument. First thing I do is I put the old
Yeah.
Justin nut on it.
Oh, those are fantastic.
Mhm.
I had a thing for the old thumb bases.
Oh, dude.
Love
That's a unicorn bass of mine. I
Fucking
want an
love
original
them.
fucking thumb bass.
You breathe on it, goes. Grr, grr, grr.
Oh.
Hey, I have one now. So
Oh.
there's a funny story. First of all, this is the only dolphin ever made in taxicab yellow. So then I played this on my instructional videos just for the demos,
Okay.
Mhm.
because it was a little, you know, weird to like do anything. Anyway, and it went really well. And then I was in a couple. You can see it kind of above it. There's an ad that was Bass Player Magazine when I was
Okay.
at Musicians Institute, and this is my retirement. So they actually all the teachers signed it. But so I brought a lot of profile to the bass, but they said, listen, we're only making one. So do you remember years ago, pins were a big thing, like kids collected pins from
Mhm.
Disney and stuff. So Warwick made me a one-time ever only
Dude.
yellow dolphin pin to match it. So I'll never get rid of that bass.
Man.
But if there's time, I'll tell you, when I first came on with Warwick
Mm.
as a player, I was the head counselor of Musicians Institute. I was a teacher there. I was writing for the magazine. So Warwick said, listen, you know, we want you to have some basses. What do you want? And I said, I want a thumb 4 neck through, you know, just gorgeous. And, you know, Jack Bruce at the time, I remember him on the cover of Guitar World magazine with him and Jack Bruce. Jack Bruce is Billy Sheehan, but he had a thumb.
Yeah, the
I had to have that bass. And they said that, well, listen, we don't have that right now, but we just sent to BIT some basses to loan out. And there's a dolphin that's pretty special. We'd like you to try it. So I pulled it out and it's yellow. And in my mind, I'm thinking, beautiful Ovencoal or Babinga or
sure.
Zebra wood,
Mhm.
Oh.
something gorgeous. I pull it out, it's yellow. And I was like, I called my rep at the time. I said, I don't know if this is really my vibe. And he's like, listen, play it. Take it for a while, play it. And sure enough, I really loved it. I thought, you know, and at that time, Stefan Lassard was really going crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'll keep it. So then they said, well, do you need anything else? And I was subbing. Occasionally I would sub for teachers that got cut in traffic and stuff. So I said, well, I need a 5-string. And they said, well, what would you like? I said, well, the thumb 5 neck through would be pretty sweet. And they said, okay. I get a box like a week later, and it was a Streamer Stage 1, which is a super nice 5-string, great bass. And it was at least natural, but it wasn't my dream bass. And so this kind of went on. I'll kind of cut to chase. But every time they'd say, hey, we see I was on HBO and they said, hey, just for one like news episode, and they said, do you want a bass? I said, a thumb for neck through, and they'd send something else. So finally, I'm getting married to my wife, Corey, and it's the year 2000. And they had just, the year previous, Dana Begoods had hired an employee, and they said, listen, he was in marketing. And they said, well, everyone should have what you're marketing. You should get you to know it. So what would you like? And he says, well, I'll just go out and pick something. He came back with a thumb four neck through, and it was a post-NAM meeting. And I just threw it on the ground. I'm like, I can't believe, and so, but I was being silly because I didn't really need new gear because I had a lot of basses. I wasn't, I was a rep now. I wasn't playing as much. So then for my wedding, they gave me a thumb four neck through 2000. And on the 12th fret, it says, thanks, Dale from Warwick. So it was just absolutely, so it is that's what I play. I don't play it on the everything bass stuff because there's no fret markers.
Okay.
So guys were getting lost when I would say, people kept saying, I don't know where you are. So I use the Dolphin for all the videos. So
that's awesome.
Because it's got the dolphins. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for some reason, that thumb, it's just freaking.
With the Anonchio, is that how I'm pronouncing it correctly?
Ovinkol, like Ovinkol or Bubinga. Yeah. And then they made some with not the natural, but they made some with gloss finishes, and I just felt.
Oh yeah, they started customizing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's the Bubinga body with the Wenge neck.
Wenge neck,
nice.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one day I will have one. I always look on every other day. I'm on the Low End, Brian Barrett's shop for used basses because he's a buddy of mine. So I'm always looking there, and if something comes up, I'm like, hey dude, how about a trade for, hey, what's up with this thing? Is it, and there's one, I think it might be a Dolphin or it's a Streamer, but it actually has Ken Smith humbuckers. So it's kind of
interesting.
Kind of interesting. But I'm like, I really want a thumb. I want a thumb four with the adjust the nut. That's one of my unicorn basses.
It's so nice to have a unicorn. I don't have any unicorns anymore, man.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Yeah. I mean,
I have a few.
I really don't.
Freaking unicorn bass. How about you, Dale? Anything that kind of sticks out? You're like, we have gear. I mean, we can all get, but anything that just
Yeah, there's one bass. So I'm friends with Bob Madsen, who's the bass player for Grafenberg Disciples. He also is the owner of Highlander Records.
Okay.
He lives not too far from me.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of also a bass collector, and he has a McElroy 7-string that I love. Brady McElroy. I think Brady is one of the. I mean, you guys have talked to some of my favorite builders. I mean, Devin. is absolutely.
He's killing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Devin's work is great. I put Brady right up there. McElroy basses, outstanding. Mr. Hilton, who we discussed. I think all these guys.
Brady's a good player too. He's an excellent player as well.
Oh my gosh, he can actually. I mean, I can still remember it. He posted on Facebook him playing "The Ascent of Many," I believe, is the solo piece. If you guys look at it, search YouTube for it.
Okay.
"The Ascent of Many," I think it's called. But Ascent, Brady McElroy, you'll get it. It blew my mind. And I'm not, listen, I was a 4-string player for most of my life.
Sure.
I
love 4.
I just love it. I still gravitate towards it, but I started playing in churches and everything had a low B.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I got from Bob, and I'm going to butcher the name. So please, anyone in the comments, try to give me the phonetic spelling for it, but it's Marushizik. They come public piece. Public piece is the Jam booth.
Yeah, from Poland.
Yeah, from Poland.
They look great.
Oh my gosh, this 5-string was similar situation. I was at his studio. We were just talking as friends.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, hey, play this. And I played it and really loved it. And he's like, well, listen, I have too many basses. Do you want to buy it? And at the time I was like, we're trying to save up for our daughter to go to Chapman, one of the top 100 most expensive schools in the nation. So I'm like, no, I can't really. But then as I thought about it, and I was helping him out on a couple things, but nothing officially, but I was just trying to help him out with his some of his album launches. So I called him back because I realized that, man, the low B is just a necessity. Plus, I figured I'm 54 years old, so I should start really exploring, beyond the 4 strings. So I called him up, said, yeah, well, what would you sell me? And he gave me an amazing price, like nice. Not even what he paid for it.
Wow.
And I said, okay, well, I'll sell a bass, and then, but I'm going to need to probably make payments. He's like, no problem. And then some things happened, and I called him and said, listen, he goes, listen, pay me when you can. Don't worry about it. So finally, we refied the house. I had enough money to write him the final check. We met for dinner, and it was actually the beginning of COVID. We actually met when you could still eat outside.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we met at this kind of midway point. My wife and his wife are friends. So we sat down, and I go, hey, oh, by the way, and I handed him this check. He goes, oh, that's awesome. And then tore it up and said, no, you paid in full. So Bob gave me a dream bass for very little amount of money. But that 7-string McElroy, because a lot of times in the last minute, you'll show up to play a church gig and there'll be no guitar player.
Mhm.
And since I am a pedal freak, I thought opportunity that I could throw on a little bit of overdrive, a little bit of delay, my little, wah sound, and maybe I could grab some of those melodies for him. So,
dude, so that's a low B with a high C?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got both. You got all.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Are you doing much recording, like home remote recording and stuff?
I haven't been asked to actually remote. I was a Cubase guy. I know you guys are.
Yeah,
you guys
I know
like Logic or Pro Tools?
I like Logic.
Logic is
Luna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cubase, because the owner of Danny B. Goods he actually is a great engineer. Not a lot of people know this, and he used Cubase. So when I was still with Danny B. Goods, they wanted me to do like media recordings for like hold music and offer it to dealers where we customized it. And do like, hey, this is the new thumb, limited edition 2004, and I play it while the whole music. So he's like, listen, get Cubase. And when I did a little bit of searching, they said this learning curve on Cubase was like the hardest in the industry. And I'm like, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But Dane was like, I'll be there for you. So I set up a computer. He got me all hooked up. Greg Ondo, I don't know if you guys know Greg, who works for, he basically is Mr. Cubase.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He would go to like Michael Jackson sessions and make sure the Cubase was working. I mean, he's a genius. Anyway, he was a big help. So I was getting that all rolling, and then had an absolute computer. I had a computer meltdown, like fried motherboard, lost data. This is pre-cloud storage.
Sure.
So I lost a lot of stuff there. So I'm kind of ramping up to get back in, but I don't think I'll go Cubase. I don't think it's the way for me. I'm probably going to go with one of the two that you guys use. I listened to the podcast of you talking with Dino about it, and it really got me kind of thinking that Logic seems very easy to use.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it's super intuitive, but I have a lot of buddies that use Cubase also. They're PC. Are you PC or Mac?
I'm PC.
You're PC. So but Cubase is great. I have a couple of buddies that swear by it, and I mean, it's all poop in, poop out, man. So whatever. I mean, if you're playing shit in, it's going to be shitty out, no matter how clean your ADDA converters are. It doesn't freaking matter. Yeah. But yeah, and it all depends. Like Logic just seems logical to me, where Pro Tools seems like a foreign language. Yeah. I don't know. You just kind of have to see what kind of works for you, So yeah, if you're super computer savvy, then Pro Tools might be good for you, because it just doesn't. My brain doesn't.
Be quick with all the shortcuts, then Pro Tools is the line, right?
Yeah. Well, and in the short term, because trying to improve the audio of my YouTube channel, I just bought a Tascam digital thing that I run my audio. I run everything in. Then later I can take it off of there, mix it, and tweak it.
Perfect.
So that was my stopgap, because I could get in pretty cheap, and I needed something I could move around the house and take over. Like, it's a lot easier than moving my desktop at the time. So
your rig.
So so I'm enjoying that.
That's cool.
But I want to get back into. You get a little spoiled, man, because I cut my teeth.
Yeah.
In the studio back in tape days.
Yeah.
When I have a really So when I started playing bass, I was actually a guitar player. I have tapes to prove I was the world's worst guitar player. And I was in a metal band in the early 80s, and our bass player just left. And so, he had other things, his priorities changed. But we had a gig in 1 week. So we had 2 guitar players. I look at the other guy, I'm like, all right, I'll play bass. So I grabbed the bass and went home. And that night, I could never play a guitar solo note for note. I just wasn't I didn't feel it. I loved rhythm guitar. Sure. But anytime I felt like I went to the lead, it felt like everything just fell out of the music. So I was struggling, and Eddie Van Halen was on the scene, and if you weren't Eddie, you were nothing. So I go home, and I love Maiden. I love Iron Maiden.
Dude.
And so I picked up the bass, went home, put on Killers, and I could play most of it. And I was like, wait a minute, this is different. I could hear it, and I could find it. So a week later, I play a gig with a bass solo, an unaccompanied bass solo, 1 week into the bass, playing with my fingers too, which I swore I was not going to play with a pick, even though I was a guitar player did. And on that gig, there was a band saw me and said, hey, we need a bass player. We have, 3-4 nights a week. You could be making like, at that time, I could make like $450, $500 a week. And that was like insane, And so I was like, yeah. So I went home and I told my mom, man, the music gig is actually kind of easy. I mean, but shortly thereafter, I actually got asked to be the house bassist for Mother's recording studio in Paradise, California, with the great David Groh, who's now out in Nashville.
Wow.
And he literally, because I was playing in this jazz fusion type trio kind of, we were a jam band, but we were playing lots in Chico. And he saw me and he's like, listen, I need a bass player that every day can come in. And whether it's a TV commercial, 15-second thing, or someone's album, can you do it? And I was like, yeah, all right. But I could barely read. I mean, I played trumpet as a kid, so I could read treble clef a little bit. But that was all tape. And man, that improved my playing so fast because punching in and out was not as surgical as it is now. Yeah. And I remember the first session I did my track, and we went in and they took all the other tracks down and left me exposed naked. And I could hear all the string noise, everything. So that next morning, I worked at a guitar shop. So that next morning, I went and bought a Yamaha MT44D home recording studio that was all one unit.
Yeah.
I just recorded everything. I recorded me playing scales. I record whatever I was doing. I recorded and went back and listened. And I tell you, anyone listening to this podcast who's a young player, now it's so easy. Just take your phone, do a voice memo, play, but listen for not only time fluctuations. Listen, are you misfretting? Is it always the same note? Stop. Look at what you're doing. Slow it down. Figure out your mechanics. You vacuum clean your stuff like that, and then you'll be a first call guy later on as you get more developed, because they're not going to have to do much with you. I was actually had the nickname in Los Angeles as One Take Jake. I would go into sessions, and I got lucky because at that point I could read, and I could go in, and at the time the stuff was pretty, I wasn't being asked to do cartoon charts, which are the worst. And so, and I really credit that to my early days of being embarrassed at Mother's recording studio and hearing all the warts and hairs on my bass lines, Wow. So.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, it was fate, man. You somehow that instrument fell into your lap and that was it. That was it. That's so cool.
I always say two things make you grow up really fast: recording regularly and going on the road.
Oh
yeah.
I love
that expedites everything.
Your guys' gig bag episode was great because you were reinforcing what I think young players need to know is you got to be prepared. Like the fact that I have 2 cables. Yeah, I have duplicates of everything. And if I have batteries, I have extra batteries. Yeah. And I think that was really an educational part that you did, which was also hilarious. I laughed my ass off. I was driving to my mom's up in Durham, listening to you guys crying, laughing, because I mean, you guys swear you guys are brothers. The way you treat each other is so great. Like, no one gets a pass. No one gets a pass.
No, never. It's zero. That's the way it should be. But you
should see what happens in the text. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, and then the teaser, because you guys always end by saying, "Okay, well, we're gonna stop recording, but we're gonna talk for a while." It's like, I want to know.
No, we need a little mystery. We stop it, and then we,
Yeah, no one gets to know what happens in the green room.
But Dale, you bring up a good point too. Is like this is a lot of your tone.
Yeah.
And you need to work on, and all of us have discussed it. It's not. I mean, you should be able to plug into wherever you are, and you have your sound.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of time to work on. Like you were saying, like recording, listening to yourself sound like complete shit, and then going, okay, I need to do this. I need to change this. So that's important, and it just takes time. You just have to do it over and over. It's the 10,000 hour rule,
Yeah.
with anything, but a lot of it is here.
And really, like you say, develop a little bit of thick skin, but don't like listen to the details.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what does it say? Good enough is the enemy of perfect, or something like that. It's like, yeah, that's good enough. Well, you'll never be better. I mean,
Yeah.
So, but don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
I love what I studied privately with Stuart Ham for a couple lessons, and it was awesome. And he said something, because I was going through MI
Okay.
at the time as a student, which is hard. It's
Yeah.
they're 10-hour days of class a lot of times, and then you had your stuff in the evenings. You had to work out your ensembles and stuff.
Yeah.
And at one point, Stu asked me to play something, and I tried. And I went in thinking he was going to work on tapping, slapping. We worked on Miles Davis Kind of Blue.
Nice.
We worked on So What. He worked on solo phrasing. So he asked me to play something, and I made a big mistake. And it was our first lesson. So he could see I was locking up. I was like so embarrassed I made a mistake. He said, listen, there's no mistake you can make that I haven't made. And that like really calmed me down, because we have a tendency to put these players on pedestals that they're perfect and we can't live up to that. But when he said, listen, every mistake you're going to make, we all made. Willis made, Bailey made, Jeff Berlin made. We all make them. It's just be better than it. Don't stop. Keep trying. And he was real big on ask questions. And now with you guys being available for people to ask in comments, all the resources, a player off in a town with no music store, with no music scene, but they are called to the passion of the bass, they can reach out. I know you guys would respond to any comment. I'm working on this song. I don't know what suggestion. Why is my B string buzzing at the 5th fret? You guys could at least get them started. And that's so great, man. That's cool. And so everyone ask questions. Yeah. Because you'll get through that plateau, and it's so great on the other side of the plateau.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Steve, I fixed the G&L today. Remember how I said there was some buzzing from the tuners?
Oh, yeah, you fixed it. Oh,
I
okay,
fixed
good.
it.
What was it?
There was just, it was weird because, Steve sent me a bass and he's like, dude, they said it's tagged as unplayable. I don't know what it's talking about. And so I played it for a couple of days. I switched strings, and then suddenly there's all these crazy overtones. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is it. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, and I just start hammering, open strings, start going like this on the tuner. As soon as I hit the D tuner, stops. Then I wiggle it. I'm like, oh. Then I hit the G string. There's still another one. And so the G string as well. The G string was the one that was really kind of bad. But I had a couple extra tuners anyway. So I'm just like, oh, I'll just swap those out. And we are good.
Nice. I was going to say, it's like any manufacturer like Warwick or somebody would send something to a dealer. The dealer says, oh, there's something wrong with it. They send it back. And you're like, well, whatever. We'll send you a new one. And you're like, nothing wrong with this. So what I do is I have a few instruments that are kind of, we call them the village bicycles. So they, artists can come in, take them out, they play them, gig them, either, and they can keep them, or whatever, get them at a super cheap price, or they just go, or they come back and, they're kind of loners. And this was, I just kind of revived it. I was like, man, I don't see anything wrong with this. John needed something for GHS 5-string and himself. I'm like, dude, we'll send it out to you, man. And it was one of those that I was like, dude, if you find anything wrong with it, like, let me know. We'll send it back, whatever. But that was it. Just a little tuner kind of, the clover leaf gets loose and was rattling. So, yeah, well, good. Yay. Fixed. Village bicycle fixed.
Village bicycle.
Dale, it's funny when you were saying about, like, it's all in your hands. I remember sitting, I did a clinic in Seattle, and must know E, the Bartolini rep?
I love E. I took him to Germany to tour the Warwick factory.
Oh.
So it was E, myself, and Sean Fairchild.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Sean, but he's a Seattle guy that's, he's getting a little more popular. We literally passed around a handful of, just the three of us, passed around a handful of basses. And it sounded different, radically different between all three of us. And you could hear the player in each one.
It's amazing.
It's true. And do you guys remember, well, I don't know if anyone's quite old enough, but when Eddie was first on the scene, his brown sound, that guitar sound, that tone shook the industry. Because prior to that, a lot of the guitar players would have a real high, sustaining, kind of almost scratchy guitar sound. Yeah. Here, Eddie comes with this beautiful, warm sound. So I remember reading in Guitar Player magazine an interview with Ted Nugent, and he said that this album, Van Halen 1 comes out, and he's like, I got to play through that tone. I have to play through that tone.
Yeah.
So he got very excited, called his manager. His manager arranged it that when Van Halen came through, I think they were playing the Great Western Forum, and Ted was in LA. They arranged to go to sound check, and Eddie was like super excited to meet him. So Eddie's like, yeah, come on down. So Ted's like, man, I went down there, and Eddie's like, I heard what you want to play through my rig. I've got everything. Here's my guitar. Here's the picks I use. Here's my cable. You got everything. My tech is here. If you want anything changed. He's like, no, I want the Brown sound. So Ted says, man, I felt like I just had, he puts it on. He's like, here it is. And I played a chord and I sounded like Ted Nugent. And he was like, wow. And for him, that printed on my brain.
Yeah.
But he made a distinction. And I think the distinction is, yes, this is the origin of our tone. And we then can color it. We can then do whatever we want with it, but we can't expect the gear to fix it. And so that's why, like, I do love really, like, I believe a long time ago, man, before I even went to LA, I heard some guy on TV say, if you buy quality, you'll end up spending less in the long run because you won't have, and he wasn't even talking about, he was talking about, I want to say cars, but he was saying, and it was like a Consumer Reports thing on 60 Minutes. And he was saying, like, if you buy quality now, you won't have to like do so many repairs and you won't have to replace the car as soon. Yeah. And I took that to mean like, man, whenever I buy gear, I'm just going to buy the best I can afford. Yeah. And that has done me well. Yeah. But I can't expect that to fix sloppy technique or to maybe I'm really inconsistent. Like Steve Bailey worked on us on being really consistent in our dynamics. He would bring in like the old UV meter that he had made with an in and an out. You would plug your bass in, he'd go out into an amp. And he'd say, I want you to play 8 notes and I want you to keep the needle at the same spot. Whoa. And so we would sit there and try and then he would say, okay, now play a scale. And we do that. But now look, when you went to the lower strings, that needle went nuts. Yeah. So he really worked on us on being consistent. Yeah. So, and I think now super simple. There's so many devices on an iPad or a phone, or even if you're lucky enough to have recording software, you can just sit and watch that ladder and go, okay, I'm really consistent, because if you can compress less, I think you have a better tone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
I'm hiding that. I'm a compression freak.
Oh, I actually have compression on, but it's only like 3-to-1. It's not bad. Yeah.
I play ridiculously hard, so
Yeah, but you know what? I watched your live stream from the NAMM show that you did at the bass hang thing. And I was surprised when I heard you say on a previous podcast that you play with a really hard technique because you're so nimble. Like your lines, like you don't ride the E, like and just power it out, which is great. Love the guys do that. I'm thinking back at some of the lines and stuff you were playing. It seems difficult for me to think of having a really hard right hand technique and being that nimble. So hats off to you, brother.
Yeah, facility.
You know what it was? It was like between 16 to like 20. I think I played about 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say play. I practiced. Yeah. I had some really good teaching. I went to Berkeley, dropped out, and said, "F this! I'm going to go study harder and do more." And I studied with some private instructors and I did my thing and really focused on technique, the real book, and theory. And I got a timing and feel, and I didn't really think about like playing soft. Right. I just did what I thought I had to do. So I got my nimbleness by just playing. I did this really weird thing. I would pick a tune in the real book, play it through, use an old school metronome, and then, okay, now I'm going to do it with an inversion. And I'm going to do everything in the first inversion, second inversion, third inversion. And the next thing I'm like, oh, it's 3.5 hours later, and my mom's knocking on the door. Hey, do you want to eat? And so that's all I did.
That's like a flow state, You're so in that thing,
Willis, Gary Willis freaked me out because I was having trouble with like bebop heads. They're so, because if they're written on piano or sax, they have intervallic jumps that are hard for a stringed instrument sometimes to do in the same octaves and keep it juxtaposed. And I went to Gary Willis's open counseling, who I think is one of the most articulate players I've ever been part of. Yeah. And I just asked him, I said, man, I'm struggling. He goes, well, play it for me. And I started playing it. And because my background was metal, I was playing with the claw fingers of death. All hail Steve Harris.
Yes.
Yes. And then, so Willis is like, have you thought about lightening your technique up? And I was like, well, I don't know. And he's like, I think it'll extend your career, because if you keep playing that hard, you could develop issues. So anyway, he reached over, and I never forget this. He goes, this is how hard I played. And I had my hand out. He goes, give me your arm. And he went over and he did this, and I barely felt his fingers on my. And so he goes, you don't have to be that light, because he has the ramp system. Yeah. So his fingers can't. Yeah, he can't really dig in anyway. His fingers kind of glide over. So he gave me the suggestion of cranking my amp up louder. So it forces me to kind of out of the habit, because I would start playing light and then I'd get into it and dig in. So I tried that, and I'm still not as light as him. I would say, honestly, Steve, watching some of your product demos, I think you and I have very similar right-handed attacks.
Okay.
Yeah. We're not overly light, but I don't think we're really, because if you can watch when you're playing, your string isn't bending its path very much.
Yeah. But I like to dig in a little bit, it just depends. But
You ever watch Ray Rondeau? Like Ray Rondeau, man. Ray, for like this big looking Viking guy, you know what I mean? He plays uber control right hand. Yeah. Uber control.
I knew him before he got muscles.
Oh,
yeah.
Before he started lifting.
Yeah, man. I mean, we met up at the bass place in Arizona, just coincidentally. And I couldn't believe him. He comes in and he's
yoked.
I'm like, whoa, Ray. He's a great player. He's absolutely a great player. Yeah.
Super nice guy, man. Great guy. I love Ray.
Another guy that supports other bass players.
Yes.
That really wishes the way. And you find that for the most part. Right there.
Right there. Kudos, Ray. Right there, man.
Yeah.
Got the swag.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome, man. But it's amazing, Dale. Like it's awesome hearing the history, and you've been involved with a lot of this history. So it's rad, man. I'm learning a lot, and it's awesome. I
love this industry.
So
I love
rad.
this community.
It's close knit too, man. It's like 1 degree separation. It's crazy. Pretty.
And everyone, with a few exceptions, everyone wants everyone to succeed.
Yes.
And
everyone is cool with a few exceptions. Everyone. Yeah, most.
I'm right here, guys.
Oh, shit. We didn't mute him. Wait, damn it.
Wait a second.
No, it's so funny because when you look like in base builders, all these guys, you just see you see Devin post a picture of bass and you see all the other builders going, wow, that's ace and that's great.
Yeah.
There's one bass builder that's a little toxic, and occasionally Tony will have a sneeze and he'll say his name behind the sneeze. In one episode,
I'll just say right now, fuck that guy.
Yes.
Fuck Ken Smith. I'm saying this live. I don't care who sees this. Yes, he makes a decent product for a play. John's looking away saying, oh, Jesus.
He's not making
fuck Ken Smith.
He's not making them anymore. Kevin Brubaker, who's amazing.
And now, other end of the spectrum.
Yes. Kudos.
Kevin's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome guy. Great builder, great guy, whatever. Fuck Ken Smith.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. No, but it's a truly pretty amazing community, man. And your history. I mean, Aguilar. You've been with Aguilar for.
This will be my 11th year.
Okay, I mean they came out. I mean so obviously SWR.
Yeah.
Like that kind of changed everything. Like that was just the company. Like whoa, actual real bass amps for real bass players. You got Marcus playing them. But Aguilar has, they've got this huge history. I mean, for me, the DB750 is one of the best heads ever. Best ever. That first iteration of it with a DB410. I mean, they came out with some groundbreaking stuff, and they still do. I nothing but respect, man. It's a respectful company. It is.
I actually owned Aguilar before they hired me. Wow. And, so I can honestly say that I felt the same way. I just felt that there was a really consistency in their quality. And but what I learned is Dave Boonshoft has amazing ears. He hears details. He actually trained me when I only go out there a couple times a year, and if I was lucky enough to go out when they were doing product development, he would say, "Hey, play this," and he'd give me a bass with maybe as a new pickup, and he'd go, "Now, do you hear? It's falling. I'm not getting the entire series of overtones."
Wow.
And I'd be like, "Sounds pretty good to me." But then you don't want to be the one guy in the room that doesn't see the deer in the forest, or everyone's like, "Oh, look at the deer," and you're like,
Nope. Yeah.
So, but then I started asking questions. Once again, don't know, ask questions. And his ear is unbelievable. And he also, he will release it when it's right. There were times when people, like even me on the sales staff, guys, they're asking for this. I need this and this. He's like, it'll be there when it's right. Yeah. And so we've had no limits. Things have gone really well. Dave and Dave, the two Daves are amazing guys. They're great to work for, and it's nice to know that when you sell something, it's not going to come back broken. The quality assurance. What Aguilar B stocks, by the way, for pedals, is sometimes like the lettering on a pedal will not be evenly have the same eggshell finish, and you'll look and you'll go, "Oh yeah, the L in Filter Twin is blurry." No, B stock.
That's B stock.
I think my Filter Twin had a very slight pockmark on the bottom corner.
Yeah.
Or something.
Wow.
And all of my pedal board is B stock, and no one can find what makes it a B stock.
Yep.
So I am the one guy in this crew that is not a pedal board guy, but the one pedal that I do have and I love.
Yes. My favorite.
That's a great octave.
It's a freaking optimizer, man.
Yeah.
That's it. Nothing else. I don't like any other pedals.
I love how Steve holds one pedal. Yes, that's what I need.
Pedal.
Let me get my pedal board up here.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. That's it right there, dude. I love this pedal. I love it.
Well, I want to get you.
Don't make me do it. Don't make me do it.
Wait. Hold on. Dale, say something. Hold on. Stop.
I want to get you a Filter Twin. And the reason why, and we'll work this out. Here's the reason why. And my wife knows it, when I am in a weird state of mind, I need to kind of flush out bad energy. I put on, and John knows this because I did it at NAMM. You put on the optimizer, and you put on the Filter Twin and dial it in, and you get this analog synth bass sound.
Like a Mutron thing, right?
Yes. But it's clean. Like your low end is exactly there.
Really?
And, when COVID kind of first started in my neighborhood, there was a lot of depression. I was depressed. Everyone was depressed. Yeah. So one day I rolled my rig out to the driveway, and I set up with all my pedals and my loopers, and I just started playing. And people started coming out with lawn chairs and sitting. And the one clip my wife shot that put up was me playing through a Filter Twin with optimizer. And the comments are funny. It's like, "What's that synth pedal?" No, it's just these two pedals. So we'll hook up later. I'll make sure I can get you one.
All right. Maybe I will change my mind. I'll just have a little mini pedal board that has the Filter Twin.
It's a gateway drug. It's a gateway drug.
It's a gateway.
Comment just went by.
You heard it here. First time. Yeah. But okay. All right. I'll give it a shot. I'll have some fun with them. But I love that pedal. Anyway.
All the cool kids are doing it, Steve.
I mean, I just re-upped my small pedal board, so.
Yeah.
Now, John, you're going to go for a mid-size, right? Is that, or no, you're going to go for a mega board. What was your deal? You have the small and the big, but I heard on one of the podcasts you're going to do something new. What was that?
Well, what I did was I revamped the small one.
Okay.
Nice.
Because I went to a Eventide H9.
Okay.
For all the effects.
Yeah.
Into an AMT Electronics A-Bass tube pre into what Tony's got up there, the Neve RNDI DI box.
I want to get
Tony, that's sexy. Put that down. You're gonna have to make this an adult video. Put that down. That's sexy.
Yeah. Even though I don't use them, that's a good looking board. These guys
I love pedals, man. I don't know. And I don't know, man. And maybe I'm gonna end up making like soundscapes like Gabe from The Office. I don't know. Maybe that's all I'll do. But,
yes.
But I don't know, man. It's just, and especially, because I do solo clinics, I do solo shows. And my feeling is I want to give people, especially with looping, every track's got to have its own character. Sure. So that it just doesn't sound like me playing a lot of notes at once. So, and I have a piccolo, I have a Corvette piccolo bass that's short scale. So I do a lot of my guitar stuff on that. So I love, and pedals just, man, they can change my mood. I know you guys know, like just sometimes, or sometimes it'll spur creativity. I don't know, Tony, if you or John, you get a new pedal, and sometimes a new idea comes out. You know, and
I've
you
written
write it.
songs based on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
I mean, for me, it's just like cooking. It's a little extra flavor for something that might need it, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
It's a
to
little
be
more-
honest, 90% of the time, they're off. But
Right.
when I want them, the only thing that's on all the time is
the
compressor for my
Mhm.
meat bucks, you know? But I love it. I'm committed to it, you know? I'm
Now,
okay with it.
when you go to a solo, do you do a boost at all, or is that just you playing harder even? Because your sound came up on your solos when I saw the string.
So I do use an overdrive. I'm a dark left artist, and I will use the overdrive, and I will increase the gain just a little bit.
Mhm.
But my drive is down.
Yeah.
It basically my drive is shut off.
So it's just a volume boost you're using it for.
It does actually. If you shut off the older dark glass pedals, you will still get a drivey overdrive effect.
Right.
A very slight, more like a Geddy Lee type of sound.
Cool.
And I'll use it just for like increased volume. But I mean, just barely. You know?
Yeah. Nice.
Man. What's your amp of choice, Dale?
I like the AG 700.
Okay. Nice.
I like clean.
Yeah.
I never, I never toured. Well, that's not true. My very first bass amp was actually a guitar head called the Lab Series by Gibson, the Gibson Lab Series.
Okay.
And it had I believe it had preamp tubes, but I was worried. I was worried about being in like Norman, Oklahoma, and so dropping my head and can't find tubes and stuff. So I went solid state pretty fast.
Okay.
And so when I first came on with Aguilar, I actually had the old AG 500 dual channel, which actually one channel was always overdriven,
Okay.
but the first channel was super clean. I switched to Tonehammer 500s when I was, started repping them because, man, it's a great head. It's super light. I mean, AG 500 was heavy.
Yeah.
Then when the AG 700, man, it's a reimagining of the old AG 500. So I was already kind of like that sound. But because I do a lot of looping and layering, I like it to be super clean. With the Tonehammers, it's built in. It has kind of this tube warmth to it, a little bit of a crunch to it. But if I put a drum loop through it, you could hear on the cymbals a little bit of the breakup. And it just, I didn't like that. So I, and I know this is a very niche thing. Not most players aren't going to loop with drum tracks and all this stuff. But, and also, Stanley Clark spoke at our school once when I was still there, and he was all about clean power. Like someone said, if you give any advice to me buying gear, he always back then, he said, buy as much wattage as you can, but not for volume, for headroom.
Yeah.
And he gave a whole wonderful description of what headroom was for bass players. And so, yeah, I just always gravitated to ultra clean, no noise. I don't like any noise in my signal at all. I'll add it with like a fuzz or something, but I like my bass. Like I want my canvas to be white so that if I put a color on it, it's really that color. Where if my amp is kind of maybe off beige and I put a color on, it's not really the color I got, So I don't know, I'm kind of a purist about that.
It's
So no jazz basses with you with single coils and the hum and all that stuff.
Boy, I switched them out right away to hum canceling pickups. Yeah, because I remember playing. I don't want to say because I don't want to come across. It was an early endorsement, and it was a smaller builder, and I was playing in down in your area. I was playing a gig, and it was pretty quiet, and it was like 3 nights, and we were just playing covers. So the first night was a Thursday night, and there was no one there, and so we're just kind of playing. So it was pretty quiet, and the lady behind the bar started up a blender, and it came through my amp like.
Oh.
As soon as I touched my strings, the blender went away. But if I took my strings off, and so it was like, oh man. So I prefer very clean sounds. Yeah, So you're right. I even changed all my pickups on my Warwicks.
Wow.
Not that MECs were inherently noisy or anything, but I just trusted the hum canceling of what we're making. So
it's a safety net for sure. Like it's just a safety just in case. But that's another thing too, is some of these Class D or the power amps. I mean, for me, that's why I love the DB750. It's because when I played a note, I just felt the girth in the note.
Right.
Some Class D amps don't have that. I mean, they're great. They work, but it doesn't have that. I don't know, that feeling. So I think
You know,
yeah.
and that's why that, you know, I mean, in fact, for several years now, SIR said that the DB 750 or 751
Yeah.
is the most requested head on riders now,
Yes.
and so it's delivering in the big arenas for sure. And it used to be really big with churches. Some churches still use it, but a lot of churches are going to no amps on stage. So it's a bummer for me. Here, yeah,
years.
yeah. But I use my tone hammer pedal, so I
Nice.
can, you know, I can
There
at
you
least,
go.
you know, use that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, and it's funny though, because I remember Dino Monoxylus, I used to help him carry his SVT, his A10 and his SVT head, because he had a Harley, I had a truck, so I could get him to a gig, and it was like the Big Bang Theory. His elevator did not work,
Oh my god.
so we carried it down 3 flights of stairs. But I remember him telling me when he first moved in, he goes, "Yeah, I moved in. I got a great apartment." And I was his counselor. So I'm like, "Good, man."
Okay.
He says, "Yeah, but I turned my SVT on and the guy downstairs complained." I said, "Oh, you played?" He goes, "No, I turned it on." The clunk that went through, boom, it went through when he turned it on. He said, I go, "Well, that's a loud head."
But that's a great sound. That's absolute power. That's just like you play, it's like, it just fills you with warmth. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that. And that's why I like the 750.
Yeah, before NAM starts, like in the mornings before NAM starts, I probably did when you were there, John. I'd go through all the bases, but I plug in the DB 751 into our either 810 or 412 because I don't get to, you know.
Yeah,
glorious.
Yeah, we did that.
Glorious.
Yeah,
just so good.
And you all have experienced this. There's a whole different experience pre-NAM, post-NAM. Before the show, after the show closes, we are a tight-knit thing. We all go through the same thing. Our feet all are hurt, but that's when you really can hang with guys, and you really can, you know. I don't drink. I've lived a straight edge lifestyle, no drugs, no drinking. So my favorite for many years was Saturday morning, Sunday morning, watching the guys come in that are the demonstrators who've been up all night playing, been up all night drinking, and they just walk in, head down, and you're like, "Hi, have a good
Can
show."
I tell you my favorite times? This is my favorite times. Is pre-NAM Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, setup day.
So I always have an exhibitor badge, or at least I have for like the last, I don't know, 6-7 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm on there, whether it be through Michael L or Tsunami or somebody. And then I get to see my friends.
Yeah.
Well, fork trucks are going around and
Yeah.
dirt all on the floor and the carpets are being laid down. And there's some like angry truck driving guy like, bring that over here.
Union.
And like
They're all
there's
union.
sounds and beeping and noise and forklifts everywhere. And like, and I'm like, oh, and this so-and-so. Oh, and this, hey, oh, you want to grab coffee? Oh, I love it. Yeah. I fucking love it. And I missed it so much this year.
Yeah.
Same. Before I got to know you, Tony, I remember thinking that you were an undead. You were maybe a vampire because Sunday morning you looked as good as you looked Thursday morning. None of us did. I mean, you would, because it seemed like I'd always see you standing next to our booth with your gate bag over your shoulder, talking to guys. You'd have your coffee or whatever, and I'm like, dang, he doesn't even look tired. Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm gonna throw garlic at you and see what happens.
I have a routine at NAM. I have a routine. Yeah. Okay. I don't eat during the show. Like,
that's good.
Like I'll have a light breakfast. I skip lunch, and I have a light dinner. I don't drink during most of the show. I'll never drink like during the day.
Yeah.
And usually I'll have my last performance on Saturday. And then I'll go over to the GHS booth and I'll steal a Heineken from John. And I'll walk the show with like that. I'm like, okay, my job's done.
Yeah,
that's
the way to do it.
But I don't, you know, I'll drink Wednesday night, you know, because we have a little party at the Uber bar. But like, I don't, because I'm usually got a gig, I'm performing, I've got stuff to do, and I take a lot of vitamins. I'll take B vitamins and stuff during
you have to.
Day. Yeah.
You got to.
John and I go to the gym.
Yeah, there you go.
Like 6:30 in the morning on Wednesday. Like we go to the you know, so we stay fresh and active. I'm religious about it. I don't really party hard. Do I drink? Yes. Do I drink to an excessive level?
No.
No, not at all.
I don't
No.
think. I don't think. Yeah, none of us. It's just.
I'll never eat convention food, by the way. It's just a rule.
Yeah.
I just don't.
No, that's why I always try to if the hotel's got a buffet, that's when I'll usually grab like some fruit and muffins and stuff, throw it in my backpack, and that'll be my lunch.
I get a case of water on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm usually at the hotel right across the street at the Alpine. Right?
Oh, no way, the Alpine.
I
That's a
love
rad
it.
place.
I love it.
It's
So
classic.
cheesy. I fucking love that place. I have a case of water. I bring a few waters in. I always have like my pedal board, a base, and another bag. Like I always look like I'm traveling across Europe or something.
Wow.
I just, get up early. I just try to take care of my body.
Yeah, that's
But I
important.
will eat the flan.
Of course you will.
Well, I
Any
mean,
Mexican desserts I'll eat.
Wow.
I like going to Morton's and getting steak.
Morton's. The only thing about Morton's is they crowd you in there, where
Yeah.
like your back is to. So I've been kind of doing the Ruth Chris thing because they give you a little more
Nice.
space.
Mhm.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Anywhere
guys
with
got
meat.
big money people.
No.
Yeah.
Anywhere with meat. That's it.
Do you see what John and I go for breakfast in the morning? John, tell him about it.
Go on, Angelo's. It's
Was it Alberto's? Alberto's?
I think it was Angelo's. Yeah, it's basically a little fast food chain, and it's not a clean one.
Oh, it's very dirty. It's filthy.
That's good for your antibodies.
Yeah. It builds up some.
Get like a $4 burrito like this. It's just
Ooh, I like that. $4 burrito? That big?
You know the food trucks that Nam added are
Yes.
great.
Yes,
Mhm.
they
And 'cause
are.
I mean, I'm a foodie. I love like trying different cuisines. I think chefs are artists like us. And so being able to hear or taste their interpretation.
Yeah.
But if you're an exhibitor, there's not enough time. The lines to those things are so insane
Yeah,
that
that's
unless
why I don't do it.
Yeah.
it eats up too much of the time to be able to do that. So
I don't want that stuff in my body. Like I'm literally running around. And now, I do like all of us do A&R.
Mhm.
All of us, right? Do A&R to some degree.
Yeah.
So between performing, being A&R, working, I always have a band out there. Usually there's a posse of guys. It's like I'm I just don't eat. Don't eat.
Yeah.
During the day. Have breakfast, and then it's a light dinner till Saturday night.
Yeah.
Saturday night's a heavy dinner.
Yeah. Well, you're going to need it by then.
Yeah. At JT's, right? Big dinner at JT's.
Saturday night is usually the tsunami dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
That's a Mexican dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Hunt goes off to his own thing. He does an antisocial GHS thing.
Actually, no. What I did last time was I took my girlfriend out on a date.
Did you really?
I did. We went to downtown Disney. We saw one of our bands that was playing there, and yeah.
Steve, where were you that last Saturday? You didn't join us at Tsunami.
Maybe gigging. I don't know. Or just sick of it because I was in charge of the whole thing. And I was like,
I think
fuck
you-
Yeah,
this.
'cause that was the thing. That was your first year handling logistics and stuff.
From start to fucking finish.
And Dale, you're freaking busy as all hell.
Dale's busy too.
See,
Yeah.
and I have a real hard time going, and I don't mean to disrespect all the players that are my friends, because all the guys from MI that might be playing and they'll say, "Come play." After a day at NAMM, I have to rest my ears and I have to get off my feet.
Yep.
And so John knows, I go back to the hotel room mostly. I loved that you guys streamed. I hope you do that every time you stream the bass hang thing, because I watched John's set. I watched your set. I watched Rodney's, I think, although I think there was some technical issues or something. I couldn't get on for a little bit. So anyway, but I got to rest, because even though my last seizure was 25 years ago, it's a shadow over me. I can't, the NAMM show is so draining, and I know my triggers. I don't eat well.
Yeah.
I don't get enough sleep, and I'm stressed. So the one thing I can really control is to just go back to my room and
So
chill
Saturday night, you don't go out for dinner anywhere?
Usually not, unless, well, that's okay. Let me back up. For the last couple of years, I go to take dealers to dinner. So I get which is great. Yeah, I get a really great dinner, usually Ruth Chris and Morton's. I took the guys from Chuck Levin's Washington Music, super cool guys. I took some guys from Chicago Music Exchange, super cool guys.
Cool.
they're all really cool hangs. So for me, that's wonderful. Eat some really great high quality food, get off your feet and get to know these people beyond just, hey, do you need anything? Can I help you? So yeah, last couple of years I do that. But previously, like when John was on staff with us, I'd always say, I'm just going to go back to the room. I just need to get out.
If you ever want to do the Saturday night tsunami dinner, it's Mexican food, of course, right?
Is it at Garcia's? Do you guys go to Garcia's?
Oh, God, why can't I think of it? It's a few streets away. It's almost walkable.
Yeah.
But
is there a Target close by?
It's around the corner, Dale.
I can't think of it.
Oh, it's like right around the corner from the convention center?
Yeah.
Around the corner, little Jesus sign.
Oh, I know it.
Now you got it.
I always see Mike Pope. Mike Pope is always there at that on Saturday night there too.
It might be Garcia's because a lot of the bass players. We took Yannick Wisdala there, and it's great, high quality Mexican food, reasonable price. And usually can get in pretty easy.
It's a great hang. The tsunami artists come and so forth, and we do the thing there. So
I know that we're going on long, but someday when you guys are doing a hang, have John tell the Pete Hilton Nam Odyssey that nearly killed me. And that's how I actually met John.
Oh my God.
Nearly killed all of us.
And the fact that John and I became friends is because we held each other back from killing Pete Hilton.
I love Pete Hilton. That guy's crazy. I love him.
He's crazy, but don't ever have him pick the restaurant and tell you it's just around the corner. It's walking distance.
Just around the corner.
That sounds like an adventure that's going to take 5 hours.
We saw the Jesus sign. I thought my Lord and Savior was calling me home because I was about ready to die.
Oh, that's hilarious.
All right, so before we wrap things up, then we have a few questions, Dale. All right, so let's just John Moody. We'll start with the first question, actually.
Let me see. Living or dead, who would you want to jam with?
Oh man, great question. Part of me I would love to jam with like Dave Garibaldi. I would just love to play with Dave Garibaldi. My instinct was to first say Neil Peart, but I would just spend the entire time wetting myself and second guessing every note that I played. But I think, I love Tower Power. I've seen them more times than I can count. And I've seen them with Russ McKinnon on drums, who's also a monster. Okay. But to sit down and lock in and play, and I don't even know if I'd want to play a song. I'd really love to just improvise with Garibaldi because he's really infamous, or not infamous. He's famous for, if the groove's good, he'll lift a beat. He'll change where the accents are. And what he does with simple 16th notes on a hi-hat is like a lesson on vocabulary. It's Garibaldi would be my guy.
Nice. I like that. All right.
Steve?
Should I say? All right. Living or dead, who would you like to study with?
Wow. I would like to, it's someone I actually studied with previous who passed away. And I would love to go back now at where I'm at now and see where he would take me. And I don't know if you guys know Jim Lacefield. Jim Lacefield was at one point, I believe, the most recorded bass player in history. Wow. Like every of the first original 3 Star Wars movies, he was the bass player. Anything Spielberg, he was the bass player. He was in Free Flight, which was a fusion band that Stanley Clarke had some part with. He was just the first call LA session guy. And he taught a class at MI. He was a hard teacher, but I learned so much from him. He was a lovely guy. He found out he was one of the reasons why I got hired. And I thought he hated me. Wow. But I would like to go back now with my skill set and say, okay, where now? I'm like, I've taken your lessons and I'm here because I'm curious because I put him on a very high pedestal. He's a doubler. So I would love to just have him listen to everything I'm doing. Yeah. And because, man, he was one of my absolute favorite instructors. What an amazing guy.
And Jim Lacefield.
Jim Lacefield.
So we can, okay. Yeah. Awesome. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Tony asked the last one. I think this is good because you're a foodie. Go ahead, Tony. Yep. You want to ask it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask it. I'll ask it. Yeah, hold on.
He doesn't have a choice. We already asked one.
You want me to?
Dale, who would you like to have a meal with? Anybody.
Living or dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Living, dead, another planet. Who
Been-
cares?
I've been able to eat at some of the restaurants from the Chop Judges, so those are
Oh.
cool. Yeah, Manit, her restaurant in Nashville is phenomenal. So next time NAM Show goes there, I'll give you guys the recipe or the directions.
Nice.
But honestly, I would really like to, because I mentioned earlier, Tim Boger was a friend of mine, but we just couldn't. We lived in different parts. I couldn't get down to see him. He wasn't able to travel. I would love to just have one last dinner with him and sit down. And I'd like to, he was the very first person I ever interviewed. And he was so kind to me. He kind of helped me along. Like, no, this is how it should go.
Yeah.
He was a powerful teacher for both bass and vocals for me. And he became a great friend. And I just regret that, guys, if there's someone in your life who's not doing well health, and obviously they're kind of heading down a path, don't procrastinate. I procrastinated and I lost out. So I would really, really, really love to sit down one last time, thank him. And man, you could ask him anything about Harleys. You could ask him anything about bass playing. He has amazing road stories, some not suitable for everyone, but yeah, man, I would love one last hang with Tim Boger. Would be awesome.
Wow, I love it.
That's great.
Nice.
That's great.
Got some good answers. I like it. Good, man. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice,
That was
man.
fantastic.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, Dale, we're gonna close off everything, and then
Awesome.
we're gonna stop recording. But we're gonna talk for a couple more minutes, right?
Yeah. So now you'll get behind the red rope.
This is
Okay. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Now we're talking.
Wait a second. Hold on. Oh.
All right. What? Nothing. So Tony usually asks this, but I'm going to ask it. Where can people find you? Socials, website, all that stuff, Dale.
I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook and Instagram. Just I think Instagram is Dale-Titus.
Okay, I'll find it. I'll put it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll put it.
And then honestly, my YouTube channel, the Everything Bass with Dale Titus. Now you have to actually, if you search for it, it's got to be Everything Bass with Dale Titus, because there's an Everything Bass, which is a fishing thing. Which I do enjoy sometimes fishing, so I'll answer any questions they might have. But Everything Bass with Dale Titus would be great.
And like I said, I'll put it right here. It'll be under you. There'll be a title. And how about a webpage?
I do have DaleTitus.com. It's a bit antiquated.
Sure.
I need to. It's for really my private lessons, because I love teaching.
Nice.
And that's been another thing that's been hard to do. I just built some plexiglass dividers.
Okay.
Hopefully that I can start teaching in person again.
Beautiful.
But yeah, they can check out DaleTitus.com. It's a little old, but you're welcome to put that up.
Yeah, contact info is on there.
Yeah.
If somebody's interested and they can look. That's awesome, man. This has been incredible. I've known about you forever, never talked to you, but man, it's just rad. You are definitely you have history in this industry, man, and I love it, man. And it's crazy how in my lifetime, this bass thing has, it's pretty rad. Anyways, it's just great talking to you, man, and learning.
Well, in all seriousness, please keep doing this, guys. I mean, for my mental health, to be able to just listen in, and like I said, I laugh and I learn, and I know that I'm not alone. And with your guys' permission, I'm going to be spamming the heck out of this. And so, I'll Everything Bass will know about it. All my family and my bass family will know about it. So anyway, keep doing this, because it's so important. We're all kind of hurting. We're all feeling a little bit isolated. Yeah. But I can tell you, for this conversation, I just felt like we were hanging around a table at NAMM.
Hell yeah.
So,
dude, yeah. I mean, we got a great comment actually about the show. It's just us friends just goofing.
Yeah.
Someone wrote me on Talk Bass saying, I don't have many friends, and listening to you guys makes me feel like I'm hanging around with the people that I can't see anymore.
Yeah.
So important. So important.
That means a lot, man. Means a lot, Dale.
It touched
the comment. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I wish you guys all luck, many blessings. Thanks. Because
you too.
I'm going to become your biggest cheerleader, and let me know anytime. Don't ever hesitate. If there's anything you want me to promote, just let me know, because I would do it easily. I think this is so important. So thank you guys.
All right. Well, this is the moment. Yeah, really. Thank you, Dale. It means a lot, man. And anything we can do also, obviously. So, but this is a time where, hey, we've all been waiting for. Dale's been waiting for. We actually stopped
been waiting
recording.
for it.
This was episode 24.
24.
Pretty
Oh,
rad.
hey, congrats.
Yeah.
One
man.
more and we get a insurance break.
Oh, 25. That's true.
Right.
We get a break. We stopped recording and we talked shit for a little while behind the scenes. This is the green room now. So, anyways, Dale, thank you. Big Bottom. Everybody, thank you for watching, everybody. Thanks, Dale. And I'm going to stop recording right now.